Hello, I'm Vassilios Bantourakis. This is number 0845, the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder, and it comes to you right now.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
Now, it's time for an eclectic mix of interviews and some of the oddest news stories you'll ever hear. It's the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Hey there, hi there, ho there! Peter Anthony Holder here with you, and yes, this is indeed another edition of the Stuff File program, number 0845. And coming up on this edition of the Stuff File program, Marc Abrams is the editor of the Annals of Improbable Research, and he's back for his annual visit talking about the 35th edition of the Ig Nobel Awards.
Every year, the ceremony centers around the winners. There are 10 new winners every year, and almost all of them decide to come and find a way to get here. You know, they have to pay their own way to travel because we don't have any money. And most of them do travel here from around the world. Some years, like this year, we're kind of lucky because this year several of the things that won prizes happened to be strongly related to the theme, which is digestion.
Brenda Prater Sellers is the author of You Slept Where? Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman. Has any place she's been given her cause for concern?
The only place I had an experience was a place that was in Key West. It wasn't really haunted per se. I was traveling with my husband, Big Ed, so I was getting ready. It was 11 o'clock in the morning, getting ready to check out. And he kept saying, why do you keep coming back in here? Because I was in a different room getting ready. So when I walked in there, I saw the floor go creak, 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 creak. And so I went to the front desk. I said, I saw all these boards moving and the doorknob jiggle, but they just kind of said, well, you're in Key West.
Stuart Nulman is along with another edition of Book Banter.
Hi, I'm Stuart Nulman, and to mark Halloween, I offer you a literary spooktacular of 4 books to read for chills, thrills, and quiver your liver. It's going to be a scary, very scary segment, and it's creeping up on you soon on the Stuff File program.
And there's lots and lots of Stuff File news, dad joke theater, morning shower thoughts, and of course, an idiot of the day. The guest slater, the person who told you this was show number 0845, was Vassilios Bantourakis, one of the co-owners of my favorite breakfast eatery, Peddler's Restaurant in LaSalle, Quebec. Great food and amazing staff. Open every day from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. except Mondays. God, I love that place. Thank you very much, Vassilios, for doing the guest slate on this edition of the Stuff File program, a show that is listener-supported, fan-funded radio that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Well, let's get right to the stuff. Back on Monday, October 20th, you may have fallen victim to the outage that Amazon Web Services, or AWS, had and the havoc it caused. Now, for me, there were several services that I used that were either out of service or wonky during that period, and it was problematic. But in my case, it wasn't exactly life-threatening. The outage also disrupted the company 8 Sleep's smart mattresses, causing beds to overheat and trap users in upright positions. The AWS failure affected heat controls on the smart beds, leaving customers unable to cool down overheating mattresses. Some owners of the $5,049 Pod 5 Ultra adjustable beds found themselves stuck with mattresses locked in inclined positions designed to reduce snoring and back problems. 8 Sleep CEO Matteo Franchetti apologized on social media, writing, "The AWS outage has impacted some of our users since last night, disrupting their sleep. That is not the experience we want to provide, and I want to apologize for it." The company restored full functionality to all mattresses by 10 p.m. Monday, and it was working on outage-proofing their technology. Well, Speaking from experience, I'm assuming that a lot of companies are working on outage-proofing their technology. This could be the preview of worse things in the future. Animal rescuers in California shared security camera stills capturing the moment a foster kitten spiced up her human family's dinner with a special ingredient, a dead mouse. The Merced SPCA shared photos captured by a home security camera in the foster family's kitchen. The photos show the foster kitten, Wendy, dropping a dead mouse into a pot cooking on the stove. According to the Post, Wendy is a foster failure that was caught on the kitchen cam, or kitten cam, adding spice to her mom's dinner. The Post goes on to say, we should all be as thoughtful as Miss Wendy. Really? Wendy's foster owner said that she was out feeding her dogs when the kitchen camera recorded the cat's attempt at cooking. She said the feline's suspicious behavior when she returned to the kitchen led her to check the camera footage and discover what surprise Wendy had left in the pot. She said, as you can guess, it was takeout for dinner that night. I'm just taken by the quote when she commented on the feline's suspicious behavior. I mean, seriously, when is a feline's behavior not suspicious? As I've often said on this program, cats are evil, little pieces of evil, plotting against mankind. And still with cats, the Spanish town of Terrassa in northeastern Catalonia has paused black cat adoptions during the Halloween season. From October the 6th to November 10th, local shelters will not approve fostering or adoption requests for black cats. Officials say the move aims to protect the animals from harm or use in rituals. Deputy Mayor Noel Duque said that adoption requests for black cats often rise around Halloween, and the restriction helps prevent impulse or trend-driven adoptions and any macabre practices. Terrassa has more than 9,800 cats, with about 100 in the town's adoption center, including 12 black cats. The city council described the ban as temporary and exceptional, but may consider similar measures in the future. Normal adoptions will resume after Halloween. Again, little pieces of evil plotting against mankind. But the black cat? Well, let's just let Boris Karloff tell the true tale from the 1941 movie The Black Cat.
Ancient books say that the black cat is the living embodiment of evil. And that evil enters into the nearest living thing. It is
the black cat does not die. Those same books, if I am not mistaken, teach that the black cat is deathless. Deathless as evil. It is the origin of the common superstition.
Need I say any more? Let's get to our first guest here in this edition of the Stuff All program, shall we? The 2025 Ig Nobel Awards took place on September 18th. It's the 35th year, and each year, the Annals of Improbable Research puts on the event which honors achievements that first make people laugh and then think. Marc Abrams, the editor of the Annals of Improbable Research, is back to tell us more about the big winners of 2025. He joins us from Boston via Riverside.com. Hi, Marc.
Big hello and tickety-boo, Peter.
Touche. Thank you very, very much for being on the program with us once again. Are you ever surprised by the way that some people have entered the competition?
Why, yes, I am, because surprise is really what this is all about. The official criterion for winning an Ig Nobel Prize is you've done something that makes people laugh and then think. Most of the time, that turns out to be because the things that win prizes are way outside most people's experience. When you first hear about these things, you have no idea how to react, so you start laughing. That seems to be how all of us are built. So that's what it's about. And it's surprising that of the many thousands of new nominations we get every year, that, yeah, a lot of them are surprising, which is wonderful. But it's surprising to me that some of them don't seem so surprising. They don't have that zing, which is why they don't get chosen.
Well, you mentioned the fact that you have thousands of them each year. When you first started this 35 years ago, did you ever anticipate that the amount of inductions that you got or qualifications that you received from people who want to win an Ig Nobel Prize?
I hadn't at the beginning really thought about it that way, but had dreamed that it might catch people's fancy and become a thing that spread all over. You never know. And we got lucky, and it has. Even the first year, it spread around the world. And since then, it's really grown every year, 35 years now.
Now, this year's theme, I believe, is digestion. How did that come up, and how did it manifest itself?
Every year, the ceremony centers around the winners. There are 10 new winners every year, and almost all of them decide to come and find a way to get here. They have to pay their own way to travel because we don't have any money. And most of them do travel here from around the world. In between announcing those 10 prizes, we do a lot of other little things and some big things, like we have a new opera, the funny little opera we write every year about something in science. And that's what the theme is about, theme for the opera and theme for the other little speeches. Some years, like this year, we're kind of lucky because this year several of the things that won prizes happened to be strongly related to the theme, which is digestion.
Let's talk about one of those things, and that is the idea of breast milk and the fact that it can affect a child if the mother ate garlic. How did that come about?
Yeah, the Pediatrics Prize went to two scientists in Philadelphia who studied what a nursing baby experiences when the baby's mother eats garlic, or really right after the baby's mother eats garlic. And that started for a couple of reasons. One was that a lot of women who are about to give birth for the first time start getting a lot of questions from people they know about, are you going to change your diet? Because some of the things you eat might be dangerous for your baby, like garlic. And that was an open question. And also in the dairy industry, probably for as long as there's been a dairy industry, there's a thing that happens sometimes, which is milk comes from cows who ate hay that grew in a field next to some garlic. And so some of the garlic enters into the milk, and there's milk being sold which tastes and smells a little of garlic. And that's also a big question for that industry. So that's what these two scientists were looking at.
One of the other ones, the Psychology Prize, which was a collaboration between Poland, Australia, and Canada.
Congratulations, by the way.
Sorry, what was that?
Congratulations.
Okay.
It's yet another Canadian winner.
Absolutely. They did it for investigating what happens.
It's very, it's I think very smart of you to zero in on this one, Peter.
And why is it? Okay,
describe.
I'll describe it first, and then you tell me why it's very interesting. It's for investigating what happens when you tell narcissists or anyone else that they are intelligent.
Yeah, as I said, it's very smart of you to zero in on this one, Peter.
Are you saying I'm a narcissist?
Hello, Peter, are you there? Hello?
Yes, I'm...
Yeah, what they did was they approached a lot of people, and for each of them, they, at random, led these people to believe that they were outstandingly intelligent, or led some of the others to believe that they were outstandingly stupid. They didn't quite put it in those words, but they made it very clear. And what they say they found really consistently was, if you get the idea across to somebody that you think they're really, really unusually intelligent, most people will start to believe that more and more. And also the opposite, that if you really get it across to somebody that you think they're pretty stupid, most people will get that picture in their head and they'll start to believe that somewhat. And it's even more true a little bit if the person is a narcissist.
I find it interesting that Canada was part of this particular research only because we as Canadians typically tend to downplay our attributes.
Well, yeah, it's very intelligent people downplay their attributes.
Oh, let's get to the fingernails. The literature prize, and I'm kind of curious as to why it's a literature prize. But anyway, it's for persistently recording and analyzing the rate of growth of one of his fingernails. This would be Dr. William B. Bean, one of his fingernails over a period of 35 years. Why is this the literature prize, first of all?
It's the literature prize rather than some other category because he wrote a series of reports, which are beautiful things to read every 5 or so years about what had happened to his fingernails and the rate of fingernail growth during the previous years. So it's a body of literature. He was wondering, if you're wondering why he did this, he was wondering always about what a doctor could be watching out for when a patient comes in. Are there any things about a particular patient that might tell you something's going on here and we need to look harder because there might be something wrong? And what he discovered was that a person's fingernails do not, over the course of your lifetime, grow steadily. As you get older, they slow down. They grow less slowly. And he also, and here's this the medical and really interesting thing, he discovered that over those 35 years, with detailed records of how fast his fingernails were growing, he discovered that during periods when he was ill, his fingernails stopped growing very fast at all. And then when he got over the illness, his fingernails would start growing at the regular rate again. So this turned out to be one more indicator a doctor might be able to look at to say, hey, this patient needs maybe some extra attention.
Now, for the biology prize, this one was from Japan, and it was for their experiments to learn whether cows painted with zebra-like striping can avoid being bitten by flies. Again, what's the basis for this? Why did they even try to answer this particular question?
Cows don't like being bitten by flies, and they show that in a lot of ways. And that can have a lot of consequences, especially if the cows are part of a commercial operation. They got the idea for this thing because about 10 or 12 years ago, we gave an Ig Nobel Prize to some scientists in a different part of the world, in Europe, who had been looking at horses and whether horses would get bitten a lot more often by flies or a lot less often, depending on the color of their fur. And they discovered that, white-furred horses and black-furred horses, one of them was very attractive to hungry flies, and the other was not very attractive to hungry flies. So the team in Japan took that idea and wondered, what happens if it's not the whole animal covered with the same, all white or all black fur? What happens if it's like a zebra? What happens if it's black and white stripes? So that's what they were testing out here. And they discovered that black and white stripes seem to have the same effect. So they're zeroing in on a lot of things about the behavior of insects and of light, and protecting cattle, and who knows, protecting people conceivably in the future a little bit against flies and other insects.
I said in the introduction a quote that you coined, and that is that these are achievements that first make people laugh and then think. In the 35 years that you've been doing this, what's the aha moment where you thought, this makes me laugh, but it makes me think? What's the one that stands out for you?
Oh, there are 100. Here's one from just last year. It's something that strikes everybody as being completely crazy the first time they hear about it. And yet, just in the last day or two, there have been a lot of news headlines around the world about something that's happened just recently. This is a prize we gave last year to some Japanese scientists who say they have discovered that many kinds of mammals are able to breathe through their anus.
Okay.
Now, that may strike you as a little odd, or it may strike you as extremely odd. The reason they were looking into this was that they deal with people who have really severe damage to their lungs to the point where the person might die soon because they're not able to breathe in oxygen. So how do you get oxygen into them? These scientists had learned that there are some animals that are able to take in oxygen in unusual ways. So they did some tests and discovered that, a lot of mammals, if they're given liquid with extra oxygen in it, coming in through the unexpected end, they're able to breathe, in effect. And just yesterday and today, the news internationally is filled with the update on this same project, that they've now begun testing this on humans, hoping that they can, before long, discover whether it really is a way that they can save some lives of people who otherwise might die.
I often feel that some of these ideas come up with a group of people sitting around pontificating while drinking, which was some of the best ideas.
I think I think you've just summed up all of life for many people.
Absolutely. No? Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on to talk about the Ig Nobel Awards. This is the 35th year in 2025. Will you be with us again for next year's awards?
Do you know something I don't?
I could not be. There's a possibility I might not be here.
No. Peter, you and I must both vow we will do this again next year, please.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
Mark Abrams, editor of the Annals of Improbable Research and the folks who put out the annual Ig Nobel Awards. You can find out more and also watch all of this year's ceremony by going to their website at improbable.com. You can go to our website at thestuffile.com to the page for this show, which is show number 0845, and you'll find all of the links. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
And now, Dad Joke Theater.
Lance isn't that common a name these days, but in medieval times, kids were called Lance-a-lot.
Join us again for another Stuff File program, Dad Joke Theater.
There's still more guests, more news, and an idiot of the day coming your way on the Stuff File program. Stay tuned. The Stuff File program is a listener-supported, fan-funded radio show that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Sign up and find out about our rewards program. Being a patron doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. There's absolutely no obligation. You could join today and end whenever you'd like. But the time we have your support would be so greatly appreciated. We'd also love to hear your thoughts about the show and even your ideas for rewards. Join us for the ride. Join us at patreon.com/thestuffileprogram.
In my heart, I'm standing for Canada. Hi, this is Rick Hansen. As the man in motion and through my foundation, I try every day to demonstrate the limitless potential of people with disabilities. It's amazing what we can do if we do it together, including protecting Canadian jobs and supporting Canadian businesses. Shop as if your country depends on it. Keep your money in Canada for Canada.
Coming to you from the outskirts of sanity, this is the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder.
And still to come in the program, we'll talk to the author of You Slept Where? Plus, Stuart Nulman is in with another edition of Book Banter. We also have a morning shower thought and, of course, an idiot of the day coming your way a little later on. But we've got more Stuff File news right here, right now. Police in New Jersey said reports of monkeys on the loose in Newark are a social media hoax perpetrated by photos and videos that appear to be AI-generated. Newark Public Safety Director Emmanuel Miranda said police received a report of wild monkeys on the loose at Georgia King Village one morning, a day after local animal control received similar reports of monkeys on the streets of Newark. Said a couple of residents.
AI, like, come on, let's use it for the right thing, like not something like this. When something really does happen, then what?
We need to use AI the right way, not play around too much and make things bigger than what it is.
Police searched the area of the reported sighting but found no signs of non-human primate activity. Miranda said the reports are now believed to be the result of a hoax. He said officers have not located any monkeys. Any photos or videos posted on social media regarding this incident are likely AI-generated. Said one resident,
having the police come over here, for something that's not really real is just like, it's wasting their time when they could be doing other things.
Although the technology of AI is great, I fear that some of this stuff is going to get worse before it gets better. Chinese public restrooms are trying out dispensers that require users to watch advertisements before receiving toilet paper. The machines display QR codes that connect to smartphones, triggering brief video ads before releasing controlled amounts of paper. Users can bypass the ads by paying the equivalent of approximately 7 cents US. Municipal officials describe the program as waste reduction efforts, citing documented cases of people taking large amounts of free paper from high-traffic facilities. The system evolved from 2017 facial recognition dispensers at Beijing's Temple of Heaven Park, which limited paper access to once every 9 minutes. Public reaction has been largely negative. Quelle surprise. Well, this is another place that I wouldn't want to be during an AWS outage. By the way, wouldn't it be ironic if all of the ads were for brands of toilet paper?
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
34-year-old Joshua Neil Garrison faces multiple burglary charges after allegedly targeting homes while naked in a Pinellas Park neighborhood. The incidents began October the 7th when residents reported a nude man forcing entry into homes. David Dale said, "I answered the door and there was a guy standing there and he was stark naked." Dale's truck window was smashed and house lights damaged. Tim Reichman said the suspect went into my shed, grabbed an axe, and came back to my porch, but we don't know why he didn't use it. Surveillance footage captured the man moving through yards and attempting to open windows. Police continue investigating as Garrison remains in custody. Well, maybe he was looking for clothes. And finally, in this section of Stuff File News, before we get to our next guest here on this edition of the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder, the International Taco Bell 50K Ultra Marathon is not sponsored by the fast food chain, but it is tolerated by it, and especially the 10 stores that are along the 31-mile route in and around Denver, Colorado. The world's most gastronomically demanding ultramarathon, in its 8th year, was held on October the 4th, requiring runners to stop at all 10 outlets along the path and order and eat something, often something specific from 9 of them, and drinks don't count. For instance, by stop 4, they should have already eaten a Chalupa Supreme or a Crunch Wrap. By stop 8, they should have eaten a Burrito Supreme or a Nachos Bel Grande. By stop 9, they should be dead. And yet, they continue to live in defiance of all that is sacred in this world. 31 miles, 9 Taco Bell pit stops, and all in 11 hours. Also, it's disqualifying to use indigestion-related medications such as Tums, and participants must keep receipts and wrappers, quote, for confirmation of stupidity, unquote. Their words, not mine. Those who completed the race are called survivors who got a commemorative item. Does anyone actually enter the race? Well, according to co-founder Jason Romero, the first few years there were a handful of folks. Last year there were 170, and this year we have over 1,500 registrants. But only a little over 700 actually attempted the challenge. I would assume that those who completed the race, by the time they get close to the finish line, they all look like Olympic race walkers because, you know race walkers, they all look like they're clenching their butts.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
And let's get to our next guest here on this edition of the Stuff File program, shall we? Brenda Prater Sellers has checked into places where most people would never dare. She's stayed at the infamous Lizzie Borden House, toured haunted prisons and asylums. She's the author of You Slept Where? Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman. Brenda joins us from Tennessee via Riverside.com. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, thank you for having me, Peter.
Thanks for being on the program with us. When did this all start for you? And did it start on a dare?
No, actually, it started in the fourth grade of me making lists of places that I wanted to see and photograph. I'm a photographer, a wannabe photographer. So it started in the fourth grade with the list.
So why did you want to see these places? What was the attraction for you?
Well, most of the attraction was just because it was bizarre places. And I just wanted to check things off the list. The haunted items was very bizarre because I didn't realize that there were so many haunted places in America. So USA Today did a top 10 most haunted hotels. So I made the list, and it took me like years to check them off the list, but I went to all of them. And then the more that I found that was on the list, the more places I found that were so-called haunted.
What was the first place you went to, and were you scared?
No, I basically was raised on a farm. We're 9 generations living on the same family farm. So I grew up with brothers, so I basically had no fear. But the first one I went to was the Stanley Hotel, which is in Colorado. But really, that's the exterior is not what they used in the movie. That actually exterior was in a place in Oregon. So that was my first one that I actually stayed at.
Did you have any sensations or feelings of ghostly spires or whatever the case may be in that particular place or any other place you've been to?
No, not really. The only place I had an experience, and actually I put this in my book of You Slept Where, was a place that was in Key West. It wasn't really haunted per se, but I was traveling with my husband, Big Ed, and he can't hear very well. So I was getting ready. It was 11 o'clock in the morning, no alcohol involved, getting ready to check out. And he kept saying, why do you keep coming back in here? Because I was in a different room getting ready. And I said, what was it? So when I walked in there, Peter, this is the God's truth, and I saw it with my own eyes. It was an old inn called Weather Station Inn in Key West. And honest to goodness, I saw the floor go creak, 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 creak. And the doorknob go jingle, jingle, jingle. So I think that it's the property somehow rigging those steps, underneath there. And so I went to the front desk. I said, well, I saw these boards moving and the doorknob jiggle, but they just kind of said, well, you're in Key West. So that was an experience I had.
You say you went with this place with your husband. Does your husband travel to all the places that you go, and is he a willing participant?
No, he's like Ernest T. Bass on Mayberry. Ernest T. Bass is only in like 7 episodes of the whole Mayberry. And so he's in like 7 of my chapters in my book. He doesn't go a lot of places. But now he did witness one other episode that's actually in my Lizzie Borden chapter. Michael Jackson had passed away. I was in California. We were going to photograph the Neverland Ranch, which that's where he had. And so we were listening to an Audible, and that was during the years of the Twilight, when the Twilight book series was out. And so we get closer to Michael Jackson's place. There's all kinds of people there. They have Some people have brought flowers, and I made a kind of a derogatory comment about Michael Jackson. And honest to goodness, this happened. That CD that we're listening to, and we'd listened to the CD for 4 hours, all the way from California, from LAX all the way up to California in 4 hours. But as soon as I said Michael Jackson, that CD, and God is my witness, that CD flew out of that recorder, the car, the rental car, and went to the back seat. Well, I thought that was Big Ed had punched the button, but he witnessed it, and he said, well, I thought you pushed the ejection. And even if you put the injection button, it goes, neat, neat, neat. It just like kind of goes in, goes out. It doesn't fly out. But honest to goodness, Peter, as soon as that flew out, the CD went to the back. That's what, when people listen to, CDs, that CD, when it hit the back seat, Michael Jackson's Thriller's going, just as the Thriller on the radio.
You travel to all these places. When did you decide to write the book, You Slept Where? Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman?
Okay, so the book took me 10 years to write, but I probably would not have finished the book. 97.3% of people say they're going to write a book, never write a book, or they never finish it. The reason I finished that, my story is not only about my bizarre adventures of things that I've done, but it's really my mother's story about her dementia. And the book has raised over $55,000 for Tennessee Alzheimer's. So it's more of a memorial to her and my farmer daddy from Tennessee. Or otherwise, I probably wouldn't have finished it. And I had so many stories to tell that I ended up just doing bizarre places, because I've also done all the roads. Like I did Route 66. I did all kinds of roads. I've done all the presidential libraries. I've done all this list of stuff, but I just kind of focused on the different bizarre places. I climbed Mount Everest in 2003. So I just ended up picking bizarre places. Who knew there were so many bizarre places out there?
The subtitle of your book is Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman. Why the word clumsy?
Okay, because in the book it seems like I'm tripping, I'm falling. I stayed at an ice hotel and I tripped, I fell, and then I finally met one of my heroes, which is a National Geographic photographer. And I tripped and I fell. It was an outdoor event, so I tripped and I fell actually into him. So it seemed like every chapter I'm tripping, I'm falling. So it ended up, and I am a businesswoman. I ended up running a manufacturing company in Tennessee. So it ended up just fitting that I was pretty clumsy. It's a wonder I didn't fall off of Mount Everest.
One of the places we've mentioned, I mentioned in the introduction, and you also mentioned it, the Lizzie Borden House. Now, I had the chance to talk to some of the people who work at the Lizzie Borden House. What was your experience when you were there?
Well, I didn't realize that. I thought you had to stay there at the time that I stayed there. I thought you had to stay there to be able to take the tour. Now, I learned later on that there was a lot of people that came. There's no way they're going to stay there and just did the tour. What was funny about that is that actually, and you can go to my website at www.brendapratersellers.com. And I actually get into the position of in Lizzie Borden's stepmother's room of the crime scene. So I was trying to recreate the scene of where, and you can actually stay in the same room where that happened. Yeah, I didn't really have any experiences except and I mentioned this in that chapter, is that in the middle of the night I heard just growling, gurgling noises, but it ended up being just Big Ed.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the fact that you raised $50,000 for Alzheimer's Tennessee. I don't want to slop over that. So tell us about how you decided that you wanted to raise money for the Alzheimer's cause and how you went about it.
Yes. Well, before the book was even printed, this was bizarre. It ended up we had a copy of the book, and we ended up having it on a silent auction. So that the book ended up raising $10,800 just on a silent auction. And then I did another event, just a Tennessee Alzheimer's event. It was Evening with the Author, which was me, which actually the location was right across the lake from where I grew up and where my family's farm is. And so with that event, we raised over $31,000 just at that one event. And that included the cost of the ticket, and they get a book, and each book is signed with a Sharpie. And do you know why Sharpie?
Why?
Because it's manufactured in Maryville, Tennessee, and that's my background is manufacturing. So every book is signed with a red Sharpie, or if it's an Alzheimer's event, it's signed with a purple Sharpie because purple is the Alzheimer's color. So we did that, and then I went. Mama always said, my sweet, timid Christian mother ended up getting Alzheimer's, and she ended up not being so nice. But throughout my whole life, she just kept saying, "Be nice." So I actually made a brand of T-shirts that said "Be nice," because your mama tells you to. So that was another reason. That's another way that I ended up raising money, is that selling the shirts that said "Be nice." And the other shirt I would sell said, "Hug a farmer, they feed you." And that's because of my dad. So it was really because of my parents is the reason I finished the book, and it's dedicated to them.
Well, congratulations on the book, and congratulations on honoring your parents. The book is called You Slept Where? Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman. Thank you very, very much, Brenda, for taking the time to be on the program with us.
Oh, no. Well, thank you for having me, Peter.
Brenda Prater Sellers, author of You Slept Where? Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman. You can go to our website at thestuffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0845, and you'll find the link to Brenda's website, plus links to either Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can order her book directly. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
Giving you something to think about. This is Morning Shower Thoughts.
If money doesn't grow on trees, then why do banks have branches?
Morning Shower Thoughts from the Stuff File program.
Got something for the mailbag? Drop Peter a line. He'd love to hear from you. Send your email to mailbag@thestufffile.com. And remember, stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's mailbag@thestufffile.com. Or catch up with him on Twitter or Facebook. There's more Stuff File coming your way in just a few moments.
Here's a brief word about our show and my book. If you become a regular Patreon patron of the Stuff File program, I'll give you an e-version of my book, Great Conversations, my interviews with 2 men on the moon and a galaxy of stars. It's easy to do. Just go to patreon.com and become a patron to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. So, join Patreon and claim your copy of Great Conversations, my interviews with 2 men on the moon and a galaxy of stars. Sign up at patreon.com/the Stuff File program.
From our studios in Montreal, Canada, and going out to the rest of the world, this is the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. It's time to crack a spine. The Stuff File presents Book Banter with Stuart Nulman. Once again, here's Peter Anthony Holder.
And a very spooky edition of Stuart Nulman is with us as we are in the Halloween season. Boo, Stuart.
You scared me. I am terrified. Way to go, Peter. Well, yeah, but don't expect me to wear a Chucky costume, okay?
Does that come in your size?
Frightfully, yes.
We are doing our Halloween season edition this time around, correct?
Yes. That's correct. Well, it is getting kind of chilly outside, and it is getting kind of spooky. So I have 4 books to recommend if you like your midnight chill, literarily speaking.
Okay.
How do you like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, first we're going to start with Frida McFadden. And as you know, Frida McFadden she's like a combination of Stephen King and Nora Roberts for her, her prolific output. One of her latest books is called Do Not Disturb. This is, in a way, her tribute to Alfred Hitchcock. Let me just briefly tell you the plot. It's about a young woman who flees her abusive husband during a snowstorm, thinking that she killed him in cold blood. So she flees. And like I said, she's driving in this very ferocious snowstorm, and she's got to stop over and wait till the storm blows over. And she ends up in a rundown motel run by a husband and wife that used to be a very popular restaurant, but the wife got ill and got paralyzed and couldn't cook anymore. So basically, they live alone, but except they have one other guest who's a little bit strange. But she realizes that something is not right at this unintentional refuge. That unusual things are going on when she just looks out her hotel room window and sees the husband acting a little strangely. I mean, he's very helpful, but there's something strange going on. This is like the essence of the plot of Do Not Disturb. This has elements of Psycho and Rear Window, actually. So if you're a Hitchcock fan, you're going to enjoy this book. And of course, there's the usual supply of plot twists that keeps the reader riveted right to the last page.
Do you read something like that at night, or do you make sure you read it in the daylight?
Oh, for most part, daytime.
So the book is?
Do Not Disturb by Frida McFadden. It's published by Poison Pen Press, and it's $26.95.
And what is our second book to scare you this week?
While we're on the subject of Alfred Hitchcock, if you remember, during his lifetime, the Master of Suspense not only made movies and he had his own TV series, but he also he branched out to books. During the 60s and 70s, if you are a baby boomer and fondly remember, Hitchcock published numerous titles that were actually anthologies of suspense and horror short stories. He had a mystery magazine too that was published monthly that you could buy in any magazine store or newsstand. There were a lot of these anthologies that were published, in hardcover and paperback, and you could find at your local bookstore or drugstore. These days, they're not in print anymore, and you'll probably be able to find them in secondhand bookstores. There's so many you could recommend, but I'm going to recommend one that I found recently, and it's called Alfred Hitchcock Presents Stories That Scared Even Me, and it was published in 1967. And it's an impressive collection of about 23 short stories, one novella, and one novel-sized story. It is a perfect collection of authors who contributed, like John Wyndham, Donald Westlake, Irving S. Cobb, and Ellis Peters. In fact, the novella, and it has nothing to do with Stephen King, but it's called It. Think of it this way: if you read them, and if you're a Hitchcock fan, think of it like these books are like a literary version of Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
I concur. I actually read that book, and I was also someone who subscribed to his magazine, and I also subscribed to the Ellery Queen one as well for years. So I'm really into that.
Yeah.
So this book again is?
It's called Alfred Hitchcock Presents Stories That Scared Even Me, and it's compiled by Alfred Hitchcock, and it was published way back in 1967.
And you have a third one, I understand.
Yes, Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. Now, before Stephen King, Ira Levin wrote popular horror novels like The Stepford Wives and The Boys from Brazil. But his best known one is Rosemary's Baby, which became a classic movie that was directed by Roman Polanski and starred Mia Farrow. Now, it centers on a newlywed young couple who move into an old luxury apartment complex in New York City. This is around the mid 60s. Husband's a working actor, and she's a happy housewife, but she wants to have a child, and she does become pregnant. Somehow, during the time of her pregnancy, she becomes suspicious of something nefarious going on in their apartment building, which was exemplified by their overly helpful yet somewhat creepy elderly neighbors, Minnie and Roman Castevet. A lot of people think that and The Exorcist were like the two prime horror novels to read 50 years ago before Stephen King wrote his first book. And it's very gripping. This one had me right to the last chapter. What was going to happen, what was going on in that building, and what was going to happen to Rosemary and her baby. It's really quite the read.
I think the most important thing to glean from that book is the husband isn't exactly innocent.
No. And then in the movie, they got John Cassavetes to play the husband. So I think that was a good casting choice, actually. But yeah, you're right. The husband, you think that he somewhat, yeah, that's right. Rosemary thinks he's influenced by the Cassavetes, especially the husband, Roman, and he's caught up in their nefarious web. You're absolutely right.
So again, the book is?
It's Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin, and it was published way back in 1967.
And the fourth and final book.
Well, I mentioned Stephen King, and I thought I'd keep the connection. We're going to deal with Stephen King's book Night Shift. You know, he's best known for epic horror novels like It, The Shining, The Stand, and Misery, but he's also an accomplished short story writer. And he's written several collections of short stories that were published that are done every few years. Now, I want to focus on his first collection, Night Shift, and I think that's one of the best ones. It's short stories which were published in the early time of his writing career when he was still teaching in high school in Maine. These short stories that appear in the book Night Shift originally appeared in various publications, including a number of adult magazines, of all places. I guess they needed the fill in the magazine, and there was Stephen King. This book shows how that a literary horror meister in the making. And there's one short story. I remember when I was in grade 11, our school had a book fair, and we sold a lot of King books. And the teacher that was organizing it said, if you buy Night Shift and you read it, The Boogeyman is the best story. He said when he read it in the night, one nighttime, and he after he finished reading it, he went to check his kids to make sure that they're okay.
So again, the question I asked with the first book, this is not a book you should read at night.
No. A good one, but not at night.
And out of all of these books, before we let you go, which one is your favorite?
Oh, I would say, with apologies to Messrs. Hitchcock, Levin, and King, I still like Frida McFadden. She knows how to keep her readers riveted to the stories, and there's always plot twists, but they're done so well. And they're not done as like a cheap literary device, or she gets tired of it. They're really well thought out. And now why, most recently, 6 of her books are now on the New York Times bestseller list.
So how can people scare you up, Stuart?
Well, you won't find me at, in the Bates Motel. You won't find me in the shower there either, but you can find me safe and sound on my blog, Stuart Nulman's Grapevine, which is, you can go to stuartnulmansgrapevine.wordpress.com, and back in the pages of the Montreal Times at mtltimes.ca, and also on Substack.
Thank you very much, Stu.
And good evening, Mr. Holder.
Stuart Nulman with another edition of Book Banter here on the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
The Stuff File.
And we're just about a racetrack for this edition of the Stuff File program. We do have a few more Stuff File news stories and, of course, an idiot of the day coming your way a little later on. It's not every day when the Santa Cruz Fire and Rescue gets this call.
Be advised, they're flagging you down. There's a surfer in the water was bit by an otter.
A sea otter is attacking surfers and taking their boards at Steamer Lane in Santa Cruz, California. Isabella Orduna was surfing one evening when the otter bit her foot and climbed onto her surfboard.
All of a sudden, I feel this nip on my foot, and I'm like, okay, that's not good. Roll over or roll off my board. And look behind me, there's an otter on my board.
The otter stayed on her board for about 20 minutes before other beachgoers helped drive it away. Local photographer Marc Woodward captured photos of Orduna's encounter and returned the next day to witness the otter commandeering another surfer's board. The second victim was a teenage boy who tried paddling away, but the otter grabbed his board's leash and pulled him backward. Beach officials posted a warning sign stating, "Aggressive sea otter in the area, enter the water at your own risk." The incidents recall Otter 841, a female otter that became notorious in 2023 for similar surfboard thefts. However, there's no way of knowing whether or not it's the same otter. This could be Steven Spielberg's next movie. And a shopping line argument at a Marshall store in New Jersey ended in a stabbing. Authorities report that 25-year-old Amber Thompson became upset when she thought another customer was moving too slowly in the checkout line. Police say Thompson threatened the woman and later followed her outside to the parking lot. Investigators say Thompson bought a set of knives, removed one from the package, chased the victim, and stabbed her several times. The victim was taken to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Officers found Thompson hiding in a store bathroom with a bloody knife on a baby changing station. She faces assault and weapons charges. Don't know what possessed her to do that. Maybe she was just one of those drama mamas.
Drama mamas, you share the love of twisting the knife into one another.
And boys and girls, it's that moment you've all been waiting for. It's time now for the Idiot of the Day.
And now it's time for the strange things adults do. This Stuff File presents the Idiot of the Day.
A former strip club employee has been arrested for a drive-by shooting outside a Florida establishment. Well, actually, it was more of a drive-by cheeseburgering. 26-year-old Jordan Cotto showed up on the night of October the 10th at Atlantis Gentlemen's Club to speak with management, but got into a verbal argument. Now, during the dispute, Cotto allegedly grabbed a cheeseburger from his vehicle and threw the delicacy, striking a male victim on the shoulder and causing him bodily harm. The man, however, was not seriously injured by the beef cheese projectile. I want to know how someone is hurt by a hurled cheeseburger. But anyway, let's go on. Cotto reportedly confessed to the crime and showed no remorse for the incident at the Tampa area club. The defendant stated he did throw a cheeseburger from his vehicle and said he would do it again, according to a criminal complaint. Cotto was arrested for battery, a misdemeanor, and booked into the county jail. He was released after 48 hours on his own recognizance by a judge who ordered him to have no contact with the victim, though the defendant has not been prohibited from possessing cheeseburgers. Cotto was arrested last month for burglarizing his uncle's boat and stealing a firearm, which he then sold to a relative for $300. Now, why, oh why, were you arrested for throwing perfectly good food at people and also arrested for stealing a relative's gun to sell to another relative? One reason, and one reason only: you're an idiot!
Gee, I'm only a kid, but even I know you're an idiot.
And that's it for this edition of the Stuff File program, number 0845. Hope you enjoyed it. The website is thestufffile.com, and once again, Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H, where you'll find information and links on all of our guests by going to the weekly Stuff File page. Just look for the corresponding program number, and once again, that's 0845. Email me at peter@thestufffile.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Spoutable, Mastodon, and Blue Sky as PA Holder. Check us out on patreon.com, where you can become a patron of the program. Hope to see you back here for our next show on the air, online, or as a download. We're coming to you from everywhere, including kdxradio.com, over the air on World FM in New Zealand, WNRHLP-FM in Newport Richey, Florida, KZZHLP-FM in Eureka, California, CKUW-FM in Winnipeg, CFMU in Hamilton, CKLU in Sudbury, Local 107.3 FM in St. John, CHSR in Fredericton, and also streaming on just about any streaming service your little heart desires. That's it. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder, a presentation of Flying Fish Communications. I'm Peter's lifelong manservant, Sir Dudley Piddly Havisham Sedgwick Smythe. I've always imparted words of wisdom upon Peter, but he's like Teflon. Nothing sticks.